Love is the greatest power in the world. And Jesus teaches us in the gospel today that this love can be summed up by the Old and New Testament, 10 Commandments, every word of Scripture. Every law is summed up in the law of Christ, to love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. As we know, that love definition is coming together. Just as diabolic, the etymology of diaboline is separate. You separate with the diabolic, you unify with love. It becomes the basic movement of a happy, successful Christian life under the reign of God. So let's reflect on each of these for a few moments. Connection with God. So in a sense, how in the world can you be connected with the transcendent, mighty other that created the entire universe? This is a holy that transcends all names. The gracious ground of all being, who created the universe. Jesus is the origin and source of my personal connection with this great God. His teaching, his presence, his spirit, which is imparted, God creates a mutuality necessary to enter in a loving relationship with God. Connecting God, neighbor, and self. So let's reflect for a few moments on each of these. First of all, connection with God. So how can we be connected with the mighty transcendent who created the universe? The gracious ground of all being. Jesus is the origin of my connection with God. His teaching, his presence, his spirit imparts the mutuality which is necessary for a loving relationship with God. According to Jesus, loving God, first of all, means realizing that you were loved first by God and that you desire to enter into a loving relationship with the Father. It means making choices in my life, daily little choices that connects me with that ultimate reality of God, which is expressed in all the many complexities of life that we each experience. Connecting with God means hearing a very small voice in you saying to you, I love you, you are lovable, you are not a mistake. I want to give you a new heart and a new spirit. All that is mine is yours. Trust me and let me be your God. Victor Hugo said, the greatest happiness in life is the conviction that we are loved. Loved for ourselves, or rather, sometimes in spite of our behavior. As religion, we need to forget about the sin management business, which is part of what we have to do. But it's more important to realize that what is happening is you are being transformed at the core according to the very image of God which is present within you and is expressed as your unique name. Out of 8 billion people on planet Earth, you are the only you that God has created to do a special job, a work, a purpose that God has uniquely for you. It makes all the difference. I mean, I make choices in life that reflect this belief. This is what it means to love God above all things. So if you'd like to say with me, I choose to love my authentic self. I choose to love my authentic self. And that is the... Okay. No, we'll get it. I'm sorry. I gave him the wrong number.
You played the numbers game.
Yeah. And authentic self is important. It means the true you, which is created in the image of God. And it's uniquely yours and only yours. Let's say that one more time. I choose to love my authentic self. Thank you. So then this means a connection with yourself. The first result of this relationship with the infinite God, above all things, that you are loved at your core. You are rooted in God. St. Augustine said, I am lovable because I have been loved. Living self means being connected with this core self. God has given you a beautiful core. It's uniquely you. God dwells there and loves you, and there's first love, which precedes all human love. You carry among you, always with you, that deeply hidden part of yourself, a beautiful, deeply loved person in your heart. This will set you in a journey of the heart. It must be shaped, and it must be happen, and it must be what life is. However old you are, every day, every week, you are reformed. I happen to be 83, going on 84. And hey, same with me. I am reshaped every day by this love of God within the context of my life. Now, I think it's important to realize we're not talking about ego. Ego is easing God out. It is separation. It's diabolical. We have to get to that core truth, which is at your center, which is God's love and God loving you as who you truly are. God, love is strong as death, the fire of Yahweh himself. Begins when a person feels another person's need to be as important as one's own. It implies the ability, and this is really a tough thing sometimes, but to be able to reverse roles with another person. Now, it's easy to be reverse roles with somebody you are empathic with and you love and you like and you want to be around. But it's hard to reverse roles with somebody that has behaviors that you don't like and you have every right now to like. How do you reverse roles with that? Well, it means you have to see beyond the behavior to the core self that that person carries within themselves. And that's tough. Henry Nouwen, the great priest, spiritual writer, understands the demand that this love makes. He says, you might be afraid of the pain that deep love can cause. when those you love deeply leave you, die, your heart will be broken. But this must not keep you back from deep loving. The pain that comes from deep love makes your love even more beautiful. The more you have loved and allowed yourself to suffer because of that love, the more you will be able to let your heart grow wider and wider and deeper. It's heavy duty right there. It's very serious. Thank you, Henry Nouwen. As one moves out from our loving spouse or children and family and friends, we begin to have a connection with love with everyone on planet Earth. We've got to get over this, just us and them, us and them. There is one planet, and there's one people on this planet Earth. It's the human family, and it is loved by God. And we've got to start to have this dualistic thinking. God transcends all and loves all. Doesn't necessarily love all behavior. No, that's not the way it goes. But the person, ultimately, at the core, is lovable by God. Teilhard de Chardin, the great Jesuit anthropologist, says someday when we have mastered the winds, the tides, the gravity, we will harness for God the energy of love. Then for the second time in history, we will have discovered fire. Love God first. Love yourself as a gift of God, from God, and bravely love your neighbor. This is the fire of love that sums up all of Scripture, all of church, all of everything we do, ultimately. And we can be grateful to Jesus for pointing this out to us this morning in this gospel of the 30th Sunday. We have one more. Two more. Sorry about that. This is, I choose to love my neighbor, no exceptions. I choose to love my neighbor, no exceptions. And I choose to love God above all things. I choose to love God above all things. Someday I'll get this all straight, but it's y'all here.